Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host, Advocate Tulo Hoyani. I've been pondering over Gininda's evidence. You know, Brigadier Gininda is central to this whole sense of Meyiwa thing. Because as the lead investigator, he has a lot to account for. And let me give you a taste of what I'm talking about this morning. Gininda admits from the onset that there were conflicting versions. In other words, through his own testimony, Gininda concedes that there was a theory that there were intruders into that house, and that there was a theory that said there were no intruders into that house. So from the onset, from the very beginning, the Senzo Meyiwa investigation did not go in one direction. Those who were handling the investigation, held different points of view about what had really happened there. And, when police investigate a crime scene, of course they will talk to people in and around the crime scene to find out exactly what happened. Because the people who are in and around the crime scene, like the people who were in that Kumalo house, the people who are around Senzo Meyiwa, are the first people of interest in the investigation. So the police will seek an explanation from them. But that is not the end of the story. It is not just about the explanation that they're going to get from these people. Let me make it very clear. The police will make an objective assessment of the crime scene independently from what they are being told. This is to guard against being fed misinformation about what actually happened, so that the people who are in and around, the crime scene, perhaps cover themselves up and start making up stories. They will listen to what the people in the house have got to say, but then process the crime scene and establish that before they move away from the crime scene, before they focus away from these initial people of interest, the people in the house, Kelly, Zandi, Tumelo, Mtogozisi, Kelly's mother, all of them, before they move away their focus from there, and perhaps chase stories or follow stories or any other lead, they have to exhaust and clear up the people in the house as suspects. That is how an investigation proceeds. An investigation proceeds that way. It does not proceed just by way of police arriving at the crime scene, being told that there have been intruders here, and starting running to run away after intruders. Yes, they might or may not run after intruders, but their first port of call, their first point of focus is the crime scene itself, is the house, and the people in and around the house, and the neighbors who might have seen or heard something. That is how it proceeds. So Gininda concedes that there was a version, because he says there were two conflicting versions. He concedes that there was a version that there had been no intruders into that house. This is the version of 375. But Gininda says something very interesting, and let me just read for you what he says. Among other things, Gininda says, right at the beginning, when I was trying to establish whether there were intruders at the preliminary analysis of the docket, For me, the first responding officers being informed clearly that the people who were involved in that shooting ran to a certain direction is a clear indication that there were people who were involved and they ran to a certain direction, and these people were not found. I'm reading verbatim to what Gininda said in court. In other words, look at it this way. What an amateurish way of going about an investigation. This was a dumb approach, and many investigators have rubbished this version. How do the police respond to a crime scene? They're informed that Senzo has just been shot. When they get to the crime scene, they don't process the crime scene. They don't question any of the people in and around the house. They don't take him in for questioning. There are no gunshot residue tests done on the people in the house. They simply ran like a bunch of amateurs, following a story that they are told by the people in the house. And you see, the people in the house have got the potential of covering themselves up and starting to attribute things to some other third parties or some other people other than themselves. So in this case, the police arrive on the crime scene. They are told a story that intruders had come into the house. They start running all over the place, but the intruders are never found. You see, this is not, I don't think this is what really happened. Or this is, it is just unbelievable that the police would behave like that. Now, if you juxtapose that against the fact that there were no intruders into that house, in fact, had the police done their work properly, because some of them did, there are other policemen who did. Remember, we have two parallel dockets here. The other policemen who did a proper job, focused on the crime scene itself and the people in and around the house, and came to the conclusion that there were no intruders into that house. And that is how the investigation should have proceeded. Now, the way the trial is unfolding subsequent to this investigation, this trial, is a victim of that investigation. This tragic trial that you see unfolding in the Pretoria High Court, unfortunately, is based on the assumption that there were intruders into that house. When there's an equally strong version that there were no intruders into that house, and in fact, a version that might even be more credible than the intruder story itself. So Gininda is at the center of all this. He has a lot of explaining to do. He has hidden behind explanation that this was a prosecution-driven investigation and all the rest of it. And I've said before that I don't buy that. He's just passing the buck to the prosecution. Because if you approach the prosecution might well tell you that we had nothing to do with this investigation. It was the police who were doing the investigation, not us. So this is the situation that we find ourselves in. Gininda, like I'm saying, has a lot to explain. I, for one, do not think that this investigation was done properly. Or it was done properly and some cover-up is underway here. In fact, that is what I'm inclined to believe. That the proper culprit was identified, and as Kelly Kumalo, whether she shot Senzo, in a playful act with the gun or deliberately, well, that's another story for another day. But I'm simply saying, Gininda sabotaged this investigation. It is as a result of the acts and omissions of Gininda that we find ourselves where we are. because the Pretoria High Court now is dealing with what it has before it. And I've been very worried about the way Gininda has got away with a lot of things. Gininda, in his testimony, fails to answer simple questions and is not being held to it. You see, Gininda is in the habit of, giving long explanations whenever he's asked simple yes or no questions, and that has made it possible for him to, evade giving answers. That has worried me a lot as the trial unfolded. But what we have now is undoubtedly that Gininda is at the center of it all. It is Gininda who plays the pivotal role in all this. And I dare say again that Gininda sabotaged this investigation. We are in this mess largely because of Gininda and his associates. Having said that, let me once more thank you for the views that I'm seeing and the subscriptions. We are beating the drum now. We are 160 subscribers away from the 7,000 subscriber mark. Give me a New Year's Day present. If you have always hesitated and not subscribed in the past, why don't subscribe this time? Let us get those 140 subscriptions and hit the 7,000 subscriber mark by the 1st of January 2025. Thank you very much. I'll keep you posted about everything in and around the Sonzo Meyiwa trial on a daily basis without any failure. Thank you very much.